From censored files to clear evidence, this is Redacted Realms.
What if the thing you feared most wasn't in the shadows, but was you? John's first breath back in the world tasted of antiseptic and something else. Something metallic and wrong. His hands, resting on the crisp sheets, didn't feel like his own. The skin was too tight, the knuckles too prominent. A low, wet scratching sound began from inside the wall beside his bed, rhythmic and deliberate. Then came the whispers, not from the hallway, but seeming to emanate from the very air in the room. They weren't words, but a feeling, a promise of a memory that wasn't his, of a life he never lived. His own reflection in the monitor's dark screen didn't blink when he did. This is the story of John, and the impossible truth he discovered in the one place meant to save him. For John Davies, his ordeal wasn't measured in dollars or even hours. It was measured in the suffocating darkness and the metallic tang of diesel fuel that coated his tongue. He spent 10 days trapped in a steel coffin 30 feet underwater, surviving on a pocket of air no larger than a casket. The cold seeped through the metal into his bones, while the oppressive weight of the ocean pressed down from above. This isn't just a story of survival. It's something far more unsettling. The story of what survival does to a man, and the horrifying abnormality he brought back to the surface. Sunlight fractured on the water's surface at the Galveston docks, a deceptive tranquility before the descent. The air carried the scent of brine and diesel, a familiar world he would soon leave behind forever. This was the beginning, the last moment of normalcy before the deep claimed him and reshaped what returned. John Davies, 42, with a sun-weathered face and an easy smile, loaded gear onto the workboat alongside his younger brother Mike, 28. John was a Corpus Christi commercial diver, the kind who repaired oil rigs and inspected submerged pipeline. His world was simple: cold beer, a battered pickup truck, and fishing trips with his brother. But beneath the Gulf's familiar surface, a different kind of darkness waited. His world was practical, tangible. John and Mike share a laugh on the boat, the salty air crisp with promise. The job seemed straightforward. Inspect several sunken shipping containers lost in a storm. A quick in and out, a fat paycheck. Mike would man the boat topside while John descended below. Just another Tuesday in the Gulf. The air carried the sharp tang of salt and ozone as John, in full diving gear, gave Mike a final thumbs up. He vanished over the side, the boat's rocking swallowing him into the murk below. Above, Mike felt the familiar, damp chill of solitude settle over the deck. The water swallowed him whole, pulling him down into the familiar blue-green gloom. But the storm had violently reshaped the seabed's topography. One massive, corroded shipping container now lay at a perilous angle. Its doors, warped by immense pressure, hung slightly ajar in the silent deep, just enough for a man to squeeze through. Inside the sunken shipping container, John's flashlight beam cut through murky water, illuminating suspended debris. As he inspected a wall, a deep metallic groan echoed through the structure. The sound was wrong. It wasn't the normal creak of metal. It was a shriek of failure. Suddenly, the container shifts violently. The open doors slam shut with a catastrophic, muffled thud. John's body slammed against the wall, the regulator torn from his mouth in a violent rush. The ocean transformed into a churning maelstrom of silt and bubbles, visibility reduced to nothing. In an instant, his world shrank from the vast, open ocean to a confined metal box, 40 feet long, 8 feet wide. Pitch blackness enveloped him, the only sound the metallic groan of the structure and his own ragged breaths echoing in the damp air. And then the water came in. He clawed for his regulator, but it had vanished into the tumult. The flood was swallowing him whole. A metallic tang filled his mouth as the last of his air escaped in a silent scream. John thrashed upward into the consuming black. His head breaches not into water, but into an air pocket, trapped at the top of the container. He gasps, choking on the thick, diesel-tainted fumes that fill the void. A miracle, a curse. A pocket of air, thick with the stench of chemical runoff, was his only refuge. It was his entire world, and it was steadily shrinking, consumed by the rising black water beneath. Every breath he drew tasted of rust and decay, each inhalation a calculated theft from his dwindling supply. In the absolute dark, John treaded water. The only sound, the wet slap of his movements against the silent void. The only sounds were his ragged, echoing breaths and the steady drip, drip, drip from the ceiling. Above, Mike knew something was wrong. The tether line had gone slack, and communications were dead. A metallic scent of ozone and damp rot filled the cramped space, making each breath feel heavy. Mike radioed the Coast Guard, his voice tight with urgency. For 48 grueling hours, the search team combed through the wreckage, But the storm's fury had shifted the container's location. With hope fading, the official search was called off, the team retreating into the damp night. Mike refused to leave, his stubbornness hardening into something more primal as the air grew heavy with the scent of ozone and rust. He stood alone now, the only sounds being the relentless patter of rain and a faint, unsettling scratching that seemed to emanate from the darkness where the container should have been. For 10 agonizing days he remained on that vessel, his eyes fixed on the black water, praying for any sign of movement beneath the surface. Inside the flooded container, John shivered uncontrollably, perched on a single, bobbing crate in the pitch blackness. The metallic scent of rust and saltwater filled the frigid air, which clung to his damp skin. His dead flashlight offered no comfort, leaving him alone with only the sound of his own ragged breathing and the faint, irregular drip of water from the ceiling. John whispered to himself, his voice barely a breath. The air thickened around him, growing dense and oppressive. A sharp, chemical scent invaded his senses, the acrid tang of battery acid. It coated his tongue, metallic and corrosive, as the atmosphere grew heavy with dread. A skittering sound cut through the oppressive quiet. A small, hard-shelled shape brushed his leg. A crab, carried in by the encroaching tide through a fissure in the wall. He screamed, then laughed. A raw, jagged sound that held no mirth, only the strain of a mind beginning to splinter. In the damp, salt-tinged air, he began speaking to his wife, Sarah, as if her phantom stood beside him. He rationed the single protein bar in his dive suit pocket until it was a memory. He drank the foul, metallic water when thirst became a fire in his throat. The line between reality and nightmare dissolved into the oppressive, damp air. A primal dread took hold as the darkness around him began to shift and whisper. Day 10, inside the container. The water had risen to his chin, cold and stagnant against his skin. A thick, metallic scent of rust and decay hung in the shrinking air pocket. Every shallow breath tasted of damp iron and desperation. Each breath was a ragged, watery gasp as he fought the rising tide. The chill of the abyss seeped into his bones, and the metallic taste of panic coated his tongue. His voice, raw and broken, cut through the suffocating silence. Sarah, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. With a final, surrendering exhale, he let the darkness claim him. Then, a sound. A distant, metallic clang echoed through the stillness. Then another, rhythmic. The air, thick with the scent of rust and cold stone, seemed to vibrate with each impact. A primal instinct urged retreat, but his feet remained rooted. The rhythm was deliberate, not random noise, but a signal, or perhaps a countdown. Each metallic strike landed not just in the distance, but somewhere deep within, tightening a coil of dread. A purposeful clang echoed through the darkness. John's consciousness surged as he recognized the sound of another diver's knife striking metal. A raw, primal hope ignited in his chest, cutting through the cold dread that had been consuming him. With the last of his failing strength, he slammed his own blade against the corroded steel wall. The answering sealang was a promise in the suffocating silence. Sealang, sealang, a beam of light, blinding and pure, lances through a small breach in the container door. It widens with the grinding groan of protesting metal, carving a larger portal in the gloom. A diver's masked face materializes in the new opening, backlit and featureless against the brilliance. The air inside the container, thick with the scent of stale rust and brine, rose impossibly still. John was beyond tears, his strength utterly spent. Above, in the Gulf's dark waters, a frantic rescue unfolded. Inside the chamber, the metallic tang of compressed air mixed with the scent of damp wool from his blankets. Then, a violent jolt. He was hauled upward through the crushing pressure toward the surface. He was rushed to a hyperbaric chamber, his body saturated with pressurized air from the pocket, fighting decompression sickness. He was resurrected, a medical marvel, the miracle diver of the Gulf. But when they stabilized him, they discovered the real damage. The abnormality wasn't just in his lungs, it was in his mind. The conclusion, INT. Hospital room, present day. John sits in a chair by the window. Sunlight streams in, casting sharp, elongated shadows across the floor. John Davies survived, but the man who returned was irrevocably changed. Darkness became his tormentor. Sleep fled from him like a hunted thing. The air in his room carried the faint, metallic scent of old fear, and every creak of the house felt like a whispered threat. He existed in a state of perpetual vigilance, where the ordinary world had peeled back to reveal something lurking just beneath. John required constant illumination, a nightlight against the encroaching dark. Yet a more disturbing hunger had taken root within him. He now craved the acrid sting of diesel and the briny burn of seawater. He brought a glass to his lips, and his face contorted not with thirst, but with a profound and visceral disappointment. He set the glass aside, retrieving the hidden saline bottle with a trembling hand. He took a deliberate, measured sip, the briny liquid coating his throat. A wave of relief washed over him. Pure water now tasted foreign, sickening. His body, conditioned over 10 days of torment, craved that toxic cocktail as life itself. Psychiatrists diagnosed it as a profound somatic delusion, a physiological haunting. From the doorway, Sarah watched, hand clamped over her mouth, tears welling. She saw a man physically present, yet his mind remained imprisoned 30 feet below. So what is the true price of a breath? For John, the sea was his sanity's anchor, the only thing that kept his mind from drifting into the abyss. He was pulled from the ocean's embrace, but a part of him remained submerged, forever lost in those crushing depths. Now he lives on dry land, in a comfortable home, with a wife whose love he cannot truly feel. He exists in a silent, airless space, forever thirsting for the very poison that kept him alive. The question isn't how he survived the ocean, it's what the ocean left behind inside him. The question that haunts his wife, his brother, and every doctor who meets him is far more unsettling. Did he ever really escape? A metallic tang of ozone, like the air after a lightning strike, seems to cling to his skin no matter how many times he showers. His family notices how he flinches at the faint, rhythmic scratching of a tree branch against a window pane, a sound he never used to hear. The real horror isn't in what he brought back, but in the creeping suspicion that a part of him never left at all.